Mother, how long have we been traveling?
Approximately 24 days.
Ash? Any suggestions from you or Mother?
No, we're still collecting.
I've got access to Mother now, and I'll get my own answers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Clara, but you can call me Mother. And you are listening to Yutani, the podcast for all things alien, AI, robotics, sci-fi, and technology.
Hello, you're listening to Yutani Podcast. This is Clara, but you can call me Mother, and I've got another special guest on the show today for part of our Creatives series. I would like to welcome Dominic Hailstone. Dominic, how are you?
Hi, Clara. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are
Thank
you?
you for coming on the show. Yeah, I'm great. It's quite late here tonight, 10 o'clock at night in Australia, or around 10:30. What time is it over there where you are?
It's 11. Yeah, so it's about 11:30 here. Yeah.
Okay, so we're just like on opposite sides pretty much.
Yeah.
Dominic, could you tell us a bit about what you do?
I'm primarily a writer-director, but I grew up doing special effects. So I've been directing for about 15 years now, but it doesn't pay very well. So occasionally I go back and do I do special effects. Or in the case of Alien, if Ridley Scott calls you up, you just basically drop everything. There isn't really a no to that request. Alien's one of the films that got me into this, so I'm not sure if you spoke to Adam Johansson from Odd Studio, but there was a day on the Resurrection thing where he kind of posted on Facebook, "Oh Jesus, I'm sculpting the alien with one of my mates, and oh God, it's that's kind of how I felt. You're sort of there on the project going, I'm sort of pinch me."
That must be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's really hard. Ridley's like a tough director. I don't mean that in a bad way. I think he's excellent. He works the crew really, really hard. So if you're not up for that, I think the fact we were working on an Alien movie and it was his Alien movie, and we were making the Alien. We were just kind of happy about it.
Yeah. How much of a say did you get in the sort of designs that you were working on?
Oh, God.
Or was he very vague? He's like, I want an alien that looks kind of like this, and then you just draw something and hope it's correct?
Working on big budget films is weird, right? Because it's like, Ridley comes along and he'll just say something like, oh, it needs to be more like this. But you might not see him for like a month. Mm. So when his shooting starts, you might not see him at all. On this film, we had designs left over from Prometheus by Carlos Puente, who did a great deal of the designs on Prometheus. And there was one specific picture that Ridley loved that was the basis for the Neomorph. Connor O'Sullivan had already hired Colin Shulver to do pre-production artwork, and a guy called Bradley, I can't remember his last name, but he had sculpted the head. So the head of the alien had already been sculpted and signed off by the time I was brought on, so wow. The process is very much like throwing shit at a wall, and
see what sticks, sort of thing.
Yeah. On a smaller budget film, you would get more freedom with the design, and you would sit there with the director, and you would work through it and everything like that. And obviously, Connor would mainly have the meetings with Ridley, and I wasn't part of those meetings, but I assume he got direction. More concrete direction from Ridley that he would then pass down to us. But generally, and I'm not talking specifically about Alien here, but on big budget films, it's very much like you just do a design and then it kind of goes off and then it either gets approved or not. Again, not talking specifically about Alien, that's not really down to the director. Like a lot of the times, the director has to speak to the producers. And,
I see. So Ridley doesn't have absolute complete control.
No. Very few directors do. He'll have control if he sort of stamps his foot or you know what I mean? He has control day to day, and he's a very I mean, extremely capable director. I don't think I've ever worked with a director who was that like on the ball. And to what he's, to be almost 80, I was in awe. I was like, I honestly couldn't believe what he was doing. And how efficiently he was doing it. Apart from that, there were like set visits from like, members of parliament and things.
Wow.
And so when you've got politicians who are walking through the studio and commenting on things, all it takes is one of them to turn to the producer and go, well, what's that? Or, I don't like that, and things could well get changed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you're working with very, very amorphous, you really don't know where the criticisms come from a lot of the time. And where the ideas come from a lot of the time. All you know is you've just got to do your best to, try and, accommodate the various people who are telling you the various different things.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know how I would feel like to be at work and then have someone look over my shoulder and go, I really don't like what you're doing, and then just have that scrapped after you've worked so many hours on it. That would crush me.
Yeah, no, you get used to it really quickly. Actually, no, you don't. You don't get used to it quickly at all. You get used to it really slowly over the course, and it still annoys you. I mean, the thing on Alien was kind of almost the opposite. It was, I was sculpting the alien body by myself for quite a period of time because everyone was away on the shoot in New Zealand. And,
sorry, which alien is this one?
Oh, the Xenomorph. It was about 8 foot tall.
Oh, so the hero puppet?
Hero puppet, yeah. And I worked on that with mainly Adam Johansson and Andrea Neri, I think her name is. But also I think Colin Ware did a bit of work on it as well, which I didn't mention in the article, if I should do.
Yeah, I think I've seen his name around because I follow a couple of guys on the Odd Studio Twitter and Instagram, stalking them because I'm obsessed like that. And it's been really interesting seeing the process of the clay models at first and then seeing something more substantial like the silicon suits, etc.
The problem with the Alien was that everyone wanted to comment on it. And I remember there was a couple of weeks when I was sculpting it where, probably every hour someone would come up and say something about it. And that drove me crazy. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, fuck off. And I'm not talking about just people in a crew because that's actually, you kind of know them and it's like, well, actually, they're talented people, so you accept their input. But just people would walk in, like some bloke, because the creature department's very, very attractive, and, some bloke from the art would come in and go, all right, how's it going? And you're like, yeah, cool. And you go, yeah, I always thought the alien should be a bit more, and everyone would have their opinion on what they wanted the alien to be. It's not even criticism, it's just people telling you what they thought the alien should be. It's not their fault because everyone's got a stake in the alien, otherwise they wouldn't be working on the film.
That's right.
But it's called Alien, you know what I mean? The film is called Alien, so everyone wants their input. And that was a bit weird. That was kind of more like, oh, I've never had that before. I've never had people taking this much interest in what I'm doing. It's usually a bit more hands-off. But as far as actual instructions from Ridley or Connor or Adam or anyone really, you always try and do what you can.
You were working on that face hugger that you had to do in a really short period of time. Was that the one that looks like a pill bug?
Yeah, that's the pill bug, yeah. The other face hugger was done before I'd left England.
Oh, really? What are they made out of?
It depends which one you're talking about. They were both 3D printed, but in different materials.
Oh, okay.
The first face hugger was, I'm not sure what material that. I think printed in acrylic or something.
Oh, okay.
But they were sculpted in ZBrush and, just kind of sent over. And, I think that was just like the beginning of the project. We were kind of getting things going. But the small pill bug was about 2 weeks prior. I mean, it was finished about a day before the shoot, which is fairly usual. The sculpting was started about 2 weeks before that. I was doing about 3 things at once. So I was making 3 things for David's lab and they all had to be done by the same date, So you're generally just waiting for the 3D printer to become available,
That must be so weird. I guess in practical effects, like over the evolution of film and your experience in it, you've gone from materials where you're making everything by hand initially, and then now you're waiting for a machine to finish printing out something that you constructed on a computer. It's pretty amazing. It's really...
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right, because you can get so much more detail, I think, in some 3D printed stuff. Like, I know you can do a lot of detail with your hand, but some shapes or achievements would be really difficult. Just, for example, the sliced up egg, to have to manually do that, the amount of time that it would take as well. It was just... Yeah,
I mean, I worked on the egg. The main thing is it's just like waiting, as I say, waiting for it to become available. And you're like, you know, you've got an alien that's supposed to be printed, and some guy's like printing a plate, like an alien plate, you know, and you're like, hang on, where's my alien? You know, and they're like, oh, we just had to print this plate. And you're like, come on, mate, the film's called Alien. You know what I mean? It's called plate. You know, like this plate is, you know, it's just basically some guy got down there at 8:30 in the morning before I did and got his order in earlier, you know, so.
Oh, wow.
But in
Is it a plate for the lab?
Oh, I don't know if it was actually a plate, but there were a whole bunch of, there was a whole bunch of cutlery and like actually amazing like alien artifacts, you know, just lamps and chairs, and I mean I loved it. I loved all the art department stuff. I thought it was really good.
Wow.
You know, it looks incredible. You don't see it, you know what I mean? And I was always like, you're just in a queue. I mean, having said that, there's no difference from that to like handing it over to a mold maker or foam runner or someone running the silicon or anything like that. You know, I'm just there as a sculptor, so once I'm finished with it, you just kind of hand it over. That wasn't the case with the pill bug. The pill bug I built basically myself. You know?
Wow. I found that really amazing because I used to play with pill bugs. I used to have my own little pill bug farm when I was little.
Right.
And I've spent a lot of time staring at their undersides. So when your picture came up, I was like, oh my God, that is so fucking accurate. I was very impressed.
I can't remember what it's called, but I once I saw that, because I used to live in Balmain years ago, I was, oh my God, we could have just fished something out of the harbour.
Yeah, we've got Moreton Bay bugs, which are very similar.
Moreton. Okay. Yeah. Stop. I'm thinking of. Yeah. No, I'm confused. I mean, 3D printing and sculpting, it's got its ups and its downs. Like, you can always get more detail out of an actual clay sculpt, mainly because of the printer resolution right now. Having said that, I don't think the resolution on a printer, it doesn't really matter anymore. The camera won't see that texture, and it's only if you are printing something to look at and hold that you'd really notice the difference in quality, I think. The differences, other than that, are actually just technical. Like how you use the software is different to how you would put clay onto something. So often, really very, very common is that you do something in ZBrush and then you print it out and you're like, oh, that looks different. That doesn't look right, you know? And that's a real problem. And I'm currently actually just using an Oculus Rift to sculpt, you know, so I'm sculpting.
Really? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, they sent me one. They sent me one last week, so I'm really happy.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Because the last time I used an Oculus Rift was at PAX a couple of years ago. It's the Penny Arcade Game Expo in Melbourne, and I played Alien Isolation with the headphones on, and oh God, I shit myself. It's scary.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? That game's good. That game's very good.
It's really good, especially with Oculus Rift.
Yeah, I haven't played. I played Resident Evil in VR. I haven't played Alien. I didn't have it back.
I would love to give that a go.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good game, the new one. Yeah, it's good. But there's some very good VR experiences out now. It's a very interesting format. But that does enable you to... That's got its own drawbacks. Again, like sculpting in Oculus is completely different to sculpting in ZBrush, which is very different to sculpting in 3 dimensions. But what Oculus does allow you to do is it allows you to really interrogate the model from all angles and sizes and, you know, really spin it around. And that's very useful. It's very good for sketching things out very quickly. Anyway, it's all very technical.
No, that's really amazing. Well, you know,
yeah.
I'll actually be doing a podcast soon about VR. I went and did a local VR experience here in Melbourne, where it's a first-person shooter, and you put down in a zombie apocalypse, or you put down in a space station, and you're trying to kill all the rogue robots. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they've got something, I haven't been to it, but they've got something here called The Void. They did a Back to the Future one, but they did a Star Wars one. When you look at the other players, there's 4 other players, they're all dressed as sort of in Star Wars gear, and you can touch the panels. And they said when the spaceship kind of flew down to the planet, which was a lava planet, there was wind that blew in their face, and then you could feel the heat from the lava, and oh
my god, that's amazing.
Sounds excellent, doesn't it? Yeah.
We don't have that much detail in it. I know that they're developing something like that for Alien. There's supposed to be some sort of VR Alien game being set up in Malaysia, so I totally want to fly over there for that. Apparently it's going to be like Void, the way you've described it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be exciting.
Did you ever hear of like Alien War? That was over here for...
Yeah, I heard about it through some friends. Did you get to do the experience?
No, I never did the experience. I went to visit the people who were doing the effects there.
Oh, wow.
This guy kind of put this show on, and it lasted for about 5 years.
Let's go on to Blade Runner while I've got it in my mind. So, what are your thoughts on the original Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049?
I've never been a big fan of Blade Runner. I've seen it a good number of times. I mean, probably about 15 times. I enjoy it as a sort of concept album almost, to sort of stick on the visuals and the music, which I think are amazing, the visuals and the music. But I've never liked the story or really connected to it. Kind of loved the first 45 minutes of that film, and then the rest of it's just him hunting down some androids to me. I don't know if I'm too much of a people person, but it doesn't seem to have much to it to me. There's a lot of space for you to input your own ideas and own personality into it, which is, I think, part of its charm. That's personally not why I go to films. But that's my take on it, because I know a lot of people love it. And the thing is, when people love films, and there's people that I really, really trust, and they love Blade Runner. I've watched it like 15 times trying to get what they get out of it, and I've never been able to. In that respect, the new film I prefer, the new Blade Runner. Yeah, I really like that.
Okay.
The 2049, yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I've watched a lot of movies and TV shows that address the sorts of things that Blade Runner investigates and visits, and I feel that sort of exploration is communicated better in things like Ghost in the Shell, the animation, the animated movie or the series. I feel that those sorts of things, they definitely get to the core of the issue of what is it to be human and what is it to give up your humanity in order to advance technology.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what Blade Runner is supposed to be about. And I've seen you mention that you felt like Metropolis summed it up a lot better than Blade Runner ever.
Yeah, it's more dramatic. I mean, you could watch it and the problem with Metropolis is it's got so many sort of shitty scores laid over it by whoever it was.
Yeah.
What is this music? I'd much rather just stick on some trance music and watch it myself, And, obviously, Metropolis is, when you look at it, I mean, especially when you're younger, you're like, oh, it's like an old film and it's hard to decipher. But in the end, it's a lot more dramatic than Blade Runner, and I think it actually says more than Blade Runner. And it's also hugely, Blade Runner is obviously influenced by it. So, I mean, I haven't seen Metropolis for probably about 10 years now, but when I look at something like that was made in the 1920s, when was it, 27, 26 or something, I'm bowled over. I think that's just staggering to me that you could make something that futuristic at the dawn of cinema.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamic between the workers, there's more into it. There's the world, it has a sort of political struggle in there seems to be more about the world and less about the individual characters. I'm not sure though. Maybe I'm speaking out my arse,
Well, I really loved Metropolis, and I'm agreeing with all the points that you're bringing up. So,
good.
But
good.
I also love Blade Runner, and you're right, it is more about the characters. If anything, I really don't like Deckard in the original Blade Runner. I actually like the replicants more.
Yeah, totally.
And I sympathise with them more. So, like they say, more human than human, and they definitely act more human than human. All the humans that you meet in Blade Runner are horrible and shitty, except for the ones that end up getting taken advantage of And
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, those are the people who like don't control their own destiny, not like Roy Batty and the rest of them. So
Yeah. It's a very good example of showing a plot through characterization, because there isn't much plot there, so you kind of have to. But it's definitely one of the things where the new Blade Runner 2049 is that the characterizations and the acting is just it's nowhere near as good as Blade Runner. The characters in the Voight-Camp test scene, it's incredible, that scene.
Yeah.
I find that scene is just tense and it's hilarious and it's horrible. It's like the worst job interview you've ever had, It's great. And there's nothing to approach that. The character I like most in the new Blade Runner was the female assassin.
Love. L-U-V.
Love.
Yeah.
I thought she was really interesting because she seemed to be conflicted within her own programming. You could kind of see that she was fighting something, or she wanted something. And she has very little dialogue. I got the sense of a real personality within that. But the rest of the characters, I thought they fell back on the trope of good sci-fi is serious sci-fi. Everyone speaks in a way that's very kind of serious and important, and it's a bit up its own arse for it, But having said that, I love the film. I thought generally, that doesn't really bother me because it's it's almost hypnotic, when people act in a certain way. I missed the character. The characters are brilliant. They're iconic, and I did miss that. There's no way that the new film is better than the original in that sense. Yeah.
Wow. I know that there is very controversial views here, but,
Really?
well, just for a lot of people I know really, really love Blade Runner. So
What, the new one or the old one?
Well, both. And
Both,
it's good that we could be subjective about what we liked and what we didn't like about it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's share your views on Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the movie when you first watched it?
So I went to a press screening. Just watched it with a bunch of journalists. And the most interesting thing about that is that after a press screening, all the journalists get together and go, what did you think? So yeah, my thoughts on it were I thought it was pretty dull. Anytime that I see filmmaking that just ticks the boxes, it sort of ticks all the boxes that you want from an Alien film, Alien Covenant. But for me, Prometheus was a better movie because it was more daring. It was just more interesting to me. And Prometheus has big flaws. Especially I think the last act, I think is pretty bad. But the first half of Prometheus I really like. Whereas Alien Covenant, I was kind of always felt that when I was watching it that I was waiting for it to get going. And it never quite got there. And there's definitely parts of it, I think I mentioned before, that I really don't understand why you would have, a crew made up of men and women, like couples, unless you're going to utilize that as a dramatic device. So, for example, in the original Aliens, Ripley is, she loses her daughter. No one believes anything that she said. And she has to go and work in a factory. Using a power loader, and then at the end of the film she defeats the Queen Alien with the very piece of machinery that was used to subjugate her at the beginning of the film, And so when it appears, that thing, you're like, and not only does it, you have no idea that power loader is coming, but you're just like, oh, fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? Because he's literally getting revenge on everything that was done to her at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. In Alien Covenant, you've got Catherine Waterston's character suddenly starts leaping around a ship, trying to kill this alien, as it's flying away through the atmosphere. Something you've never seen her do before. And the only indication of that, which kind of harkens back to Aliens and the way, you're thinking about it, is that you saw her talk to her now dead husband, played by James Franco, and he was a rock climber.
Yeah. And
so the only indication that you've got that she can actually do these things is that she once watched a video in the film where he was rock climbing, And that's the justification for her leaping around the ship like a superwoman, and you're like, there's a difference in storytelling, just how well Aliens was told and how badly Covenant was told. In that regard, is, you know, to me is just like, I don't know what you're doing. You know, I don't know what the scriptwriter was thinking. I don't know what the studio was thinking. I don't, you know. And I think I said before in the, you know, the written interview, I just said I don't really blame Ridley for any of that because he's not a writer. He is just directing the best script that he's got at the time. That to me is the difference between, you know, something that's very, very good, Aliens, and Covenant that isn't so good. I was really into the science of the alien. I think that's a big thing of what made it scary. In the original film, not in Aliens, but in Alien, in the original film, it's obsessed with the medical aspect of the creature. You see the x-rays and they dissect it, and it's a great portion of the film is set in a medical bay. And, you know, and in fact, like, a great deal of the fear of that film comes from it feeling a bit like a hospital, you know? Just really, really simple things like that. So, you know, going into Covenant, it was like, oh, fucking brilliant. You know, David's going to dissect these aliens and they're really going to dig down into the science of these things and actually make it more horrific. It's going to be more body horror. Even in Prometheus was that brilliant sequence where she gets it pulled out of her stomach. It's horrible, isn't it, to think that your life is in the hands of a machine. But yeah, I thought it was a really missed opportunity. That's not to say I thought it was a bad film. You know, I wasn't bored by it. Probably give it like 6 out of 10 or something.
So very average. You think it just could have been better if they advanced more of the Prometheus themes, kind of left more of the predictable stuff, like the second coming of the xenomorph. I thought that was very predictable. Yeah. And you're right, they didn't do much dissecting of the aliens per se, but we did see the internals of the engineer and of Elizabeth Shaw, which I know a lot of people were very shocked of, because we were all waiting for her to turn up. We saw her in the credits at the beginning and we thought, oh yes, she's going to be there, and then, oh shit, she's dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of like what working on the film was like. It was like, is she coming? Is she going to be it? You know, and I mean, she was there. You know what I mean? I saw her. You know, it was always like, well, they didn't know exactly how they were going to fit her into the film. Don't know what the reason for that was. I suspect it was probably more of a scheduling issue or something like that.
Yeah, because I heard that she was supposed to have 2 weeks there, but she only ended up being on the set for 2 days. Yeah,
that sounds about right. I mean, I saw her like once, you know what I mean? And they were basically just discussing what her death was going to be. But I'm pretty sure she filmed some stuff as well, you know. You know, at the end of Prometheus, it was her, a spaceship, and a head, you know. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I just want her to go off and have adventures with the head, you know. Like,
I was looking forward to that. I saw so much fan art, and I was like, yes, she's gonna like go around kicking ass using David's head as a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then we got.
But it's like a proper. Yeah, no, exactly, and that's like a proper science fiction idea, you know what I mean? Like a woman and her head, you know? You know what I mean? It's like, it's bizarre. You know, it's bizarre, and I like that. The style that it was going for, that's something, it was a bit more akin to like a 50s horror film.
Yeah.
Than the kind of, gritty, real, you know, I've seen that so many times now, you know, it's just like, this is real, and I'm like, no, it's not real, so let's get back to the ideas, you know. I'm much rather intrigued by the ideas, in any science fiction movie, frankly. You know, if I want to go and see a straight horror film, there are much, much better films to make you jump or, you know, get you excited, or at least the original Alien, you know, it's just a specific tone to it. And it's about discovery of the unknown. And all the things that you don't ever want to think about are suddenly there, you know, and you're powerless, you know. And the only thing you can do is run, you know, and the only thing you can ever do in an Alien film is run, really, you know. So, what did you think? What do you think?
Oh, I was really angry at first. I won't go too much into it, but when I watched the film, I was very disappointed and upset because I was expecting a David and Shaw film. And that's what The Crossing led me to believe. And when I initially got Alien Covenant, I couldn't understand a lot of what it was about or why they even made a lot of the decisions that they did. I felt very let down and betrayed.
Right, okay.
But after a lot of investigation that led to starting my blog and a lot of researching into the symbolism and the parallels of it, I started to understand why they made a lot of decisions, or maybe unintentionally made decisions that just happened to line up with things that made a lot of sense to me. And now I've made my peace with it. It's probably one of my most favourite films, but it's mainly because of David's lab, everything that's in it. the drawings, the characterization of David. I didn't like the fact that he became the creator of the Xenomorph. I would much prefer that he's just saying that he created them, but it was the engineers that created them, and he's kind of killed everyone that could say that they created it, so he can just go, oh, it's mine now, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, the film, you know, I've seen it a second time now because I got it on Blu-ray, and it was, it does become more interesting. Like, I find this a lot with Ridley's films. It's like the themes are more interesting than the actual action that's happening on the screen, you know? There was a lot of incorporating of Renaissance art and things like that into Covenant. I mean, deliberately so, you know what I mean? He likes to allude to those sort of grand images that have resonated with us before, you know, and basing certain designs on classical paintings and things like that. And it's very interesting that, because he was an art director, so he is literally telling the story through the art direction, you know.
And maybe that's why I can appreciate it, because I did a bit of art in high school, and that's something that I studied on my own time. I'm not like, you know, a qualified art historian, but I can recognize a lot of pieces by just watching that movie, and I'm still discovering more and more stuff every day. It's crazy. It's a massive puzzle with the amount of things that he's managed to cram into that movie. And I'm trying to get art references from the art department, from people in concept and stuff, and no one's budging. No one's telling me anything. I don't know whether it was part of their contract or what, but yeah. Oh,
I mean, the contracts are basically you just can't talk about anything, you know.
I found a few references to stuff that people have discovered, and things that some of the special effects studios were able to say, oh yeah, like this is what we based the design off. Or like you can see in the background when they haven't blurred the pictures, you can see what sort of artworks that they were referring to. There's nothing that has been officially written.
No, that's interesting, actually. I'm surprised that they would do that. You know, I don't generally remember the names of paintings anyway. It's just that I know that, I think I just spotted it when I watched the movie. I was like, oh, that's that painting, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is specific look to this one particular shot I was thinking of. I'm like, oh, that's definitely, I've seen that in the Tate, you know, Tate Gallery. But yeah, I can't think of anything specific. That's probably the answer, to be honest. It's probably that no one can actually remember the painting. You know what I mean? Like no one's up on art history. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know, Ridley's direction is usually pretty hands off, as far as I know. He never really directed me. You know, just the odd comment. You know, if he didn't like something, he'd be like, lose the fingers, or you know what I mean. It's basic stuff like that. But yeah, they're all kind of they're all quite similar big budget movies. You know, it's usually like, is the director a nice guy or not? You know what I mean? And if they're doing their job, then everyone's behind them, and if they're not, if they're stalling, then you know people don't like that.
What other directors would you like the opportunity to work with?
No one really. I mean, I just want to do my own stuff, you know, so I want to be directing my own films. I mean, I recently worked with a guy called Eddie Alcazar, who had just finished a film called Perfect that I think that premieres in about a week's time, or maybe even less, at the South by Southwest Festival in America.
Oh, yeah.
He was very cool to work with. Like, you know, he drives you mad, like all directors, but at the same time, he had an amazing eye, like a really, really good eye for stuff. And he'll be a very interesting director to watch, I think.
Cool, I'll have to check it out. What sort of movie is it? What sort of style?
It's really odd. I mean, I've only seen the rough cut of it so far. It's more like a sort of David Lynch film, something like that. Terrence Malick, sort of David Lynch type. It's low budget, maybe a bit of David Cronenberg in there. Kind of a low budget science fiction, body horror.
Ooh, sounds right down my alley, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, you know. I was like, for a first film, I'm like, that's really original and it's daring, you know what I mean? It's exactly what you want from a first movie. Yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
Anyone who's kind of, you know, I mean, if another like Ridley Scott phones up, or, you know, if it's whoever it is, you kind of want to work with them, you know, or if it's a friend of mine, I'll work with them, you know, but you don't, I'm too long in the tooth now to like jump on anything just because it's got like a monster in it.
It's got to be more motivation for you.
Yeah, you're kind of like, you know, do I want to spend a year with this guy? You know what I mean? It's usually that. It's like...
Oh, okay. It's kind of like, I guess, with bands when they go on tour,
Yeah.
really get along with these people and be in close quarters with them, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I get ya. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, always think that's a terrible thing. You know, the bands, it's like, you know, the most successful band in the world, they have to like be with each other for 50 years, you know. Like, that's your prize, you know. You work with the same 4 people for 50 years and you're like, Jesus Christ. I recently did some stuff for Tristan Versluis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Versluis. I'm sorry, Tristan, if you're listening. But it was for Overlord, which is a J.J. Abrams production. That was kind of cool. That was a standard sort of studio movie. It was being directed by Julius Avery. That was quite fun. That was mainly just production design. Anything when you're drawing is good. You're doing basic drawing because you know you're not that close to the finished product. You know, you're actually there just to supply ideas. That's always really fun. As long as you're not stuck on the production for like a year and a half, you know, and the director hates your ideas, and, you know, that's not good. But generally, it's, you know, production design is a lot of fun. As for people I'd want to work with, I mean, they're all dead. Yeah.
Like who?
There's directors like non-science fiction, you know, someone like Paul Thomas Anderson, for instance. Like,
okay.
I love his films, you know. I can watch them again and again and again. I mean, my girlfriend will attest, you know, she'll be asleep and she'll just be like, is that Inherent Vice again? I'd like, you know, you know, I just watched the beginning of it because I just like the beginning, you know, or I love watching Philip Seymour Hoffman have an argument with Joaquin Phoenix, you know. Films like that, performances. For instance, if Paul Thomas Anderson asked me to like put a boil on someone's nose, you know, for the whole film, I'd do that, you know. Because I just want to be on set to watch I just want to watch the actors. But as far as science fiction and all that, nah. I think it's too...
So that's your bucket list done. Ridley Scott, tick, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. No, it is. It's kind of weird, you know. It is weird. It's like one of those things where, like, that was the film that got me into this. So, you know, I mean, there's other things. There's like Doctor Who and Hammer horror films, but Alien was the one, and then subsequently The Thing, you know, where I was just, I have to do this. I have to. So when you're sitting there actually making the Alien, it's amazing. Yeah, and it's totally the bucket list. I mean, in fact, afterwards, you know, I came back and I was like, what am I going to do? You know, like...
What am I going to do with my life now? I was kind of like, well, I always wanted to do that, and it was like a really good experience. So, like, is it going to get any better than it? I'm not sure if it will. You know, It does.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, it is. It's fine. I'd be happy if it didn't. You know,
What are your thoughts and responses to people about how the xenomorph looked in the movie? Like, I know a lot of the time we're looking at CG or overlays. Having worked on the hero puppet, there's always been a lot of positive response, and a lot of positive response to Proto Facehugger and the Super Facehugger. What can you say about what people have said?
Well, I haven't read what they've said. What did they say?
Really?
What, they've liked it? Or, I mean, I've seen little bits, but yeah, I don't pay that much attention.
Everyone really likes what you've done. They think it's like really detailed, and they wish they could have seen it moving and alive.
Yeah.
Seen how it would have acted.
Yeah, well, I mean, initially that Proto Facehugger, I wanted to put little springs in the legs so that actually when it opened, the legs would move, you know, they'd sort of wobble. But then they were like, no, it's dead. It's totally dead. It's supposed to have been dead for ages. So, okay.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that kind of throws up other questions. Like, well, why isn't it rotted? You know, it's an alien, so I think you can kind of get around that.
The colour that it is was it supposed to be that colour, or was it going to be painted if they ended up using it in the film?
They shot on it I saw them shoot on it. There was second unit shot on it. I mean, you know, Ridley saw it and he loved it, and then he was like, oh, you know, he was a bit worried about it being too delicate. And I was like, no, it's actually designed to be sort of opened and thrown around because that's what it was required to do. So But then I saw the second unit shooting on it, and they were just fucking, take after take after take, and I could see it just falling apart. And
So it's just like Michael Fassbender throwing it to Billy Crudup constantly, just like playing catch with it.
Not even that, like just Grip's hands, like just stand-ins. It wasn't even Fassbender.
Really?
No, it was just like, I don't know who it was. It was just a member of the art department or some grip or something. But the colour of it was, that was just all me. I was just like, I only had like one go to get the colour right anyway. So you just mix the silicone and you're like, oh, that's roughly the colours that I want. Yeah, I wanted it to look like the chest burst in the original, the colours of the original, which are kind of very yellow, and then there's a bit of brown, there's a tiny bit of purple in there, sort of oysters. The thing that I did was more colourful, but that was just a mistake, I think. Yeah, I'm glad people like that. Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have done something more elaborate along those lines.
But a lot of the time, it's just time constraints, isn't it? You don't really get a choice. You just have to get something done by a certain amount of time, and you either get it done or you don't. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the thing about that was I just wanted to make something that would curl up, I wanted to see if you could make something that would actually function in the same way that a pillbug would. So that meant actually meticulously copying a pillbug, because that's just evolution. You know what I mean? You don't fuck with evolution. It's perfect. It works. So you just copy that, and then so I copied the outside of the pillbug, and then the inside of the pillbug was like basically trying to get it to look as much like, Ridley had done a little sketch, and so he kind of wanted to look like that, a pillbug, and then then you've also got however much I wanted it to look like the original Alien, and then it's kind of a compromise, and then just getting it to fit in the fucking thing. So it closes, you know what I mean? It closes, it operates, and the actors can hold it.
Is it sitting somewhere in Odd Studio now?
It's probably in a bin somewhere.
Oh no, I hope not.
It got pretty thrown about on set, so I think all the legs broke off and whatever. Or you'll find some member of the crew has got it. Years later you'll go around to their house and they got it out.
That'd be funny.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be I don't know, it's there somewhere.
Is there anything that was in the movie that you wished you could have taken home? Probably the alien, right?
No, there were things that I fucking should have nicked,
Because I'm sure people nick stuff left, right, and centre when these things.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Everyone nicks stuff. I really, for some reason, I'm like, I always want to steal things.
Oh, you're a good guy.
I don't think I'm good. I just think I'm going to get caught or something. So. Because otherwise I wouldn't think about it. But there was some really nice, they're in the film, the things that David pops out of his mouth.
Oh yeah, those facehugger embryos.
Yeah, those are really cool. Colin Shalford sculpted those, and I think they were reverse printed or something. I can't remember, but they were artwork. There were tons of them. There were 100 of them or something, or maybe even more. So there were tons you could nick, and I'm sure loads of people did. But those are really nice because they were little paperweights or something. Yeah. They were
the
really
same wavelength.
Yeah. I kind of wish I had one of those. Apart from that, nah. There's just not enough room to store everything,
Yeah, if I could just recreate David's lab and live in there, that would be my dream. That would be amazing. All the drawings as well. I've got a interview coming up soon with Matt Hatton, who runs the lab, and a lot of short drawings, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, Matt's great. Matt's so dedicated, He's like a proper artist.
Aren't you a proper artist?
Not really. He'll defend his work, you know what I mean? Really, he'll think about every single angle with it. Yeah, he's really good. We used to have really good discussions about movies, really in-depth kind of arguments about, Blade Runner or something, you know what I mean? Or but yeah, just films in general. Matt's great. Yeah, you should get a good interview out of him. And you talked to Dane, right? Yeah.
Oh, he's so busy at the moment. I've been trying to get in touch with him, but he answers me on Facebook when it's short and simple. Okay. To talk to me when you have time.
Yeah.
I've also got Ev Shippard and Wayne Hagg, so I've done the written interview with Wayne, and I'll be doing a podcast with them both soon. So there's a lot of like crossover between the practical effects and art department, I guess, because you said people from the art department were coming in and commenting on your work.
Yeah. I mean, I worked in creatures, and then I went over to the art department because it was too noisy. You know, it was just I needed to do computer stuff.
Yeah.
So I spent a bunch of time in the art department, and then I did some stuff for NPC, like previs and just some work back in England as well. Just, you know, very minor work, just coming up with ideas for the alien and stuff like that, and just movement tests.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you can sort of zip around on a film if you know what you're doing, if you know what I mean. It's quite interesting because there's so many people working there that you can kind of, you know, if your job ends, I mean, it didn't happen on Alien, for instance, but it has happened on other films. Like, if your contract ends, you can just go around to another department and say, like, have you got any work?
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, someone's just left or they need someone to take up the slack, then it's easy because you're already on contract. Do what they do behind the scenes, and then you're kind of, you carry on working.
And I'm also talking to a guy from cast from Dungeon Effects.
Okay.
His name is Grant.
Oh, Grant, yeah, okay. Yeah.
From my sources, I heard that there's going to be another Alien movie, but it's not going to be the continuation to Covenant. Now that Disney has put in a bid to get Fox, and so has Comcast, and things are kind of up in the air, which would you prefer to see? You would prefer to see a sequel to Covenant, connecting it to Alien and ending the whole thing, or would you like to see something different along the lines of Aliens, for example?
The thing is, after Prometheus, I definitely wanted to see the next one. You know what I mean? After this, I'm not convinced that whoever's pulling the strings knows where this is going. I'm really not interested with linking it up with the original Alien at all.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I just don't give a shit about that. I think the original Alien is so brilliant because it's so mysterious. Yeah, in a way, I'd like it to just veer off, perhaps. They have their adventures in space. Really, I mean, the only plot that I can think of that makes sense is that David starts experimenting on the people on the colony ship. That, I would think, would be an excellent plot. You know, you're stuck in an isolated place, and, you know, that's actually getting back to the original Alien, you know, Alien 3, I guess. But, I mean, even Alien 4, yeah, you know, but just being more isolated. That, you know, I'd say that would make a pretty decent story. Just mad scientists turning people into horrible creatures, you know. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing that, but you're not in the way that it was done in Covenant.
Do you feel like there were just too many cooks in the kitchen when it came to Covenant?
I don't think it's the ideas. I think it's more like it's the back stuff, like, you know, that you've got to get a rating. You know, and it was always going to be an R-rated movie, but, you know, I can't help but feel that, you know, the male and the female characters were put in there because that's a kind of hot topic at the moment, you know. You know, obviously for good reason, Hollywood wants to put more female characters in films. I can't help but think that was just cynical because it had no real bearing on the plot.
Yeah.
Those sorts of decisions, they stand out like a sore thumb to me because I'm like, well, what's the point? I'm trying to follow this film. I'm like, okay, so there are couples. And I'm like, well, what's the point of the couples? Okay, there is no point. There's got to be a point because otherwise they wouldn't have insisted on it. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. It's like, is it an action movie? Is it a horror film? Is it a psychological drama? It's quite clear to me that Alien can't handle all of that.
Yeah, not at once, probably.
No, not at once. No, because, I mean, even Aliens had to make that distinction. It had to go, okay, this isn't a horror film anymore. This is a monster movie. You know, and Aliens, as much as I love it, it really does a disservice to the original Alien and how mysterious and unstoppable that Alien is. Because it's really, you know, the original Alien was indestructible, and then obviously Aliens, they're completely destructible. But you forgive it because the film's so well made and well written and everything else. You know, the whole, like, Neil Blomkamp thing, I'm like, no, just fuck off. Like, I don't care.
How do you feel about retconning 3 and 4? What are your thoughts on those two movies?
Alien 3 it's kind of like Blade Runner for me. It's like a film that in my memory is better than it is watching it. Alien 3 bores me, but in my memory it's great. The themes are great, like the fucking, it looks brilliant. There's lots of things that I love about that film, but it just bores me. You know, the characters don't have much to them and blah, blah, blah. Alien 4, I loathe. I just loathe it in every way.
I'll be covering it soon on
wonderful,
Perfect Organism podcast. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen it once, but I was kind of like, it seemed to be a comedy, but it didn't have any jokes in it. You know, I was just couldn't.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
That's what you get if you put Joss Whedon on a movie. Written it like a black comedy.
Oh.
And none of the jokes are good. He recycled them and used them in his own films. I mean,
I kind of like him in interviews and stuff, but I'm like, he's one of those guys that, like, he's never made a masterpiece to me, but everyone, like, loves him. You know, like, he's never.
I enjoy his stuff when I
exactly.
sit down and it's entertaining, but I've never really thought on a deep level about his sort of thing. Like, I don't ever feel like any of his contributions have changed my life at all.
No, exactly. You know, you're like, yeah, I enjoyed watching Buffy and, you know, whatever. You know, I'm like, that was all right. You know,
He's a good TV director.
Yeah, and Firefly would be pretty good. That was the best thing. You know, the worship that he gets, I think, really hinders him more than it helps him. Those Avengers movies, Jesus Christ. You could see that he didn't like them either, because he would, like, come out in the press and just be, oh God. So, yeah, I don't like, you know, handing them to, well, again, like Blomkamp. I mean, Blomkamp says that he doesn't even like directing or writing, you know, so I'm like, well, what the fuck are you doing? You know, he's an art director. He's a brilliant art director. I think every film that he's done is probably the best art direction in science fiction in the last 10 or 15 years. A great degree of that is down to Weta, who he uses a lot. As far as, like, handing him the reins to Aliens, I'm like, no, God, no. You know, I mean, I saw Chappie, you know what I mean? Like, he said it himself. He doesn't like directing, he doesn't like writing, so he doesn't appear to have much interest in tension and atmosphere and things like that. So those are the things that I think make an Alien film. What I liked about District 9 was Charles O. Copley and the humour in the film. You know, I thought it was hysterical. That film was very, you know, it's a really funny film. It's got brilliant central performance. You know, the ideas in that are nothing new. I mean, I play too many video games to be fooled by. Yeah, you play video games as well. I mean, it's the case, isn't it? Like, all the good ideas have been in video games for years, you know, and slowly they filter down to films, you know, and so that doesn't surprise me. So I'm not, you know, when I hear someone who just wants to recreate something from the 80s, and it's like, well, do you just want your childhood back? You know, I'm like, nah.
Like, I like Aliens, but I probably don't like it as much as some other people out there who seem to know all the characters, they know all the specs for the guns.
Right.
Those are the things I don't concentrate on. I concentrate on the xenomorph, and I concentrate on the androids and the company, and that's it. Oh, and you know, Ripley, the main human characters, but everything else is just fodder.
Yeah. I mean, and it kind of should be. You know, the androids are the most interesting thing, you know, really. So with the David thing, they should have stuck with what are his parameters, what makes him crazy, why is he crazy. It's kind of all there in the story. You know, the fact that the engineers clearly, they ripped his head off in the first film. So, of course, he just identifies them as an enemy, you know. But, you know, I like the idea of... You know, it's like, goes back to the original 2001. It's like, why did Hal behave the way he did? And it's because he's having a nervous breakdown. You know, he's been given conflicting orders. And that, to me, is just more interesting. I might be alone in that, thinking that, but it's a lot more interesting than just a bunch of monsters running around killing people.
Yeah. Maybe
because it's more threatening.
I think it could be, because I don't know whether you watch Black Mirror.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I used to, I once worked for the same shop that Charlie Brooker did back. It was a video game shop years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
So random.
So, yeah, I've still got, like, issues of his comic book he used to write. He used to photocopy and write, you know. Yeah. But Black Mirror's amazing. I love it. I mean, it's a bit depressing, but it's great.
Yeah, and I think they really visit the sorts of ideas of how technology cannot benefit mankind, that we can kind of dig our own hole. And I think that's what Ridley Scott's trying to do with Alien.
Yeah.
That a lot of people just, they have conflicting ideas of what, like you said, what David's capabilities are. You actually feel, you know, is he following orders? Is he not? And what made it more confusing was Advent. Have you seen that yet?
Advent? No, what's that?
Okay, so... you've got the Blu-ray, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if you go into the Blu-ray and you go to the extras, and there's one called Planet 4.
Oh, yeah.
You go to Advent and watch the the cutscene of him being in the lab, so you're kind of looking from David's point of view.
Okay.
His transmission to the company. And he mentions a couple of things that, I've been sent by my father, Peter Wayland, to the ends of the universe to find, the origins of life. In that, it kind of seems like he's following orders. But in the movie, it seems like he's kind of doing his own thing. So it's really, you're not really clear on what's going on. Still following his original orders, or is he going his own way and doing his own thing?
Yeah.
Hard to define.
Well, I think that's it's probably a byproduct of the throwing the shit at the wall, that I said earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's what resonates with people at the time. I guess it's probably part of the problem with focus testing. That's very much like that. It's like the audience loved it. Are we going to cut it because it makes no sense? No, But I mean, all films have sort of nonsense. And I mean, the original Alien is always like, well, she goes back to save the cat. And you're like, well, we can sort of understand it, but it just wouldn't happen. It's nice, does it, but it wouldn't happen. There's no way that would happen. So, I mean, as far as David goes, yeah, I just think that kind of hard logic, like robot logic, is very, it's very appealing to me as when I watch films which have AIs in them. It's like when you watch a film, from the 40s, it's very interesting because you're like, oh, they behave differently in the 40s, so how it allows you to reflect on your own behaviour now. It's like that. If you do an AI character right, you're like, okay, what part of him is he missing, and how does that make him better, and how does that make him worse, and why is he a monster because that bit is missing from his personality, Yeah, I mean, that's just things that I would like to see. I don't really care. I mean, as long as I don't want Disney to buy Fox, I don't want Disney to buy any more companies.
Yeah, I feel like they have this sort of formula, and they kind of pump out these movies.
Yeah.
And they're just very generic. And I don't know whether it's because of my age. I've seen a lot of movies, so I kind of see what's coming. It's too predictable. All the artwork is really nice. All the concept art is absolutely beautiful. But when it comes to the story and I sit down and watch it, I'm like, I'm so bored right now.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen, or I don't even care if it's taken me by surprise. So
yeah. I don't, and there's lots of people arguing the different merits of this or that. I watch them, and I watch them all. I saw Thor recently, and I was hoping that would be better than it would. It was rather.
The Last Jedi?
No, the Thor. It's the Marvel.
Thor, all right.
Yeah, no, I like the Last Jedi. Unlike everyone else, I thought that was really fun. But Thor, I was kind of. I'm like, well, those films, those Marvel films, they're just like WWF, that's all they are. Like, here's the villain, here's the thing, exactly the same thing will happen at every point in the film, and then they'll fight, and yeah, okay.
Out of the Marvel films, I've only ever liked the Captain America ones, because I feel like there's some sort of like character conflict with him every single time. He's trying to do the right thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, trying to be with the good guys, with the bad guys, going against, his friends to take care of his other friend, and I feel like there's something there to investigate and be interested in. Yeah. But the other ones are very, sort of thing.
It's interesting you say, I would like it taken further, that if I would, Captain America, to me, I would love Captain America to be a racist, like he would have been in the 1940s, when the Americans came over to the UK here, they wouldn't use segregated, they wanted segregated bathrooms, for instance, and all the Tommies over here beat the shit out of the Americans because they wouldn't, they were just racist, so I'd love to see him dealing with Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, shouting, you know what I mean, being Samuel L. Jackson and America, having to take it, you know what I mean?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, having an actual real world issue to deal with would be great, but they don't do it like that. They don't ever take those risks. I mean, maybe with Black Panther, I haven't seen Black Panther, but
No, I haven't seen that one either yet.
But I doubt it. I bet it's all fucking same. But, you know, my point is well, I don't really understand the point in telling stories if they're not going to inform you about what's going on in your world.
Yeah, or challenge you.
Yeah, or challenge you, yeah. And I don't think everything has to be like that, but, you know, we've done it before. You know, Robocop is the best example of that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like the reboot. I feel like the message was lost.
Oh, yeah,
It's
totally.
supposed to be like so outrageous, it was just too hard to believe. And then when they rebooted it, it was just, I was really disappointed. Like with Total Recall as well. I didn't
that's
like
worse.
the reboot of that.
Yeah, that was worse because they didn't even go to fucking Mars. You're like,
I know, right? I really wanted them to go to fucking Mars. We've got the technology to make it look really cool, and then they didn't do it. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
What's the
What
point?
are you blowing your budget on?
Yeah, Robocop was a bit different. I mean, I kind of like Robocop. I sort of felt sorry for the director a bit because I'm like, you know, he wasn't allowed a R-rated.
Oh, is that what happened?
I think so. Yeah, you know, so you know, it's kind of clear to me that he was hampered by the studio. You know, but he did have a child getting shot to death by Ed 209 in like the opening minute. You know, I remember when I saw that, I was like, Jesus Christ! I thought, fuck, have I got this film wrong? And then not really anything happened in the rest of the movie. I don't.
He probably fought to keep that scene as well.
Yeah, exactly. I did hear him say, he goes like, for all the scenes that you like in this film that I had to fight for, there were like 100 or something like that are left, you know, that I didn't, the battles that I didn't win, you know. And there were definitely moments in there that were a little, it was interesting, but fuck man, the problem is just Robocop is perfect, you know. It's pretty much a perfect film, and it works on every level that you could possibly want it to. You know, it's funny. It's one of the funniest films I've ever seen, and it's one of the goriest films I've ever seen. It's got some brilliant action in it. Yeah, the acting's really good. The actual message of it, like the loss of his humanity, is great. You know, everything about it's good. You know, and it moves along. You know, it's over before you watched it. It's a brilliant film. I love it. I can watch it now. Yeah, I think I'm just defending Robocop over Total Recall. That I thought was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't even understand the point to that. You know what I mean?
It seems like today it's a lot of a money grab. The same with Terminator. I only really paid attention to the first two, and then they just kept on pumping them out. And I was like, I really don't care anymore. It's the same stuff over and over again, and they just keep bringing Arnie back over and over again. And I don't want that to happen to the Alien franchise as much as I love Sigourney Weaver.
No, it's silly.
Alien Resurrection really sealed the deal, and I think that's it. That's all we should get from that character. Yeah, exactly. I don't like this trend of like octogenarian movie stars. Actually, that's not true. Octogenarian action heroes. When they're done well, it's okay. When they're not done well, then
movie star is fine, you know, if it's, but when it's just like old people, like the Expendables, it's like old people sort of leaping around, you know, and delivering. It's just a novel. It's like, you know, I felt that about Star Wars. I was like, you know, Han Solo turns up and he's just like, oh, that's not Han Solo. I don't recognize him. It's just like, he seemed to be just not giving a shit and just.
Oh, that's because he didn't.
Right,
he was like, in this movie, just write me out.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like, I'll just do the thing I did in Crystal Skull. Is that all right? You're like, yeah. And then Princess Leia, and like Princess Leia used to be really feisty, and you know, and then you watch her in the new ones, and she's like really serious and boring. And people complain about Mark Hamill in the new one, and I'm like, he was the closest to Luke out of, as far as I was concerned, of that over Han Solo and Princess Leia. I was like, he was the one who actually seemed to kind of fitted because he was always a bit fucked up. Yeah, I don't really understand. I mean, I'm completely lost touch with fandom and science fiction and horror, frankly, because I don't really understand what the audience wants. It's certainly not what I want.
That's okay.
It is, yeah.
I've got really unconventional tastes. I've been persecuted for liking Alien Covenant, or even saying it for me it was better than Alien. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's not better than Alien, but yeah. You're wrong
That's
about
all
that.
right. We can agree to disagree.
No, you're just wrong. No, but you shouldn't be persecuted for it. You know, it's a fairly interesting movie. I don't know. I've kind of got a feeling that science fiction just works better when it's at a lower budget.
I guess it was the limitations of the time when it comes to Alien. For the creature to be hidden more and for it to be more mysterious, that led to a better movie. And that kind of set the tone for a lot of horror movies going forward as well. Like, recently I watched The Ritual, and they really hid the monster right up until the very end. And it was very effective. It was very scary.
Oh, that's very good. It requires a lot of discipline to do that. Or just a creature suit that doesn't work, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one or the other. I've had films in development where we started as a horror film and then the people we're developing with going, okay, so what monsters are going to be in it? And I'm like, well, I don't really want to show the monster. And then it becomes apparent that they hired me for the monster.
Yeah.
It's proven to be better if you don't show it. Your imagination's always going to be better.
Always the fear of the unknown, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you know, the people reacting to it. You know, if you've got Veronica Cartwright freaking out, Jesus Christ, you don't need anything else. You just need a good performance, and that's it, really. Someone staring into the darkness, you know, and you see a hint of a knuckle or something, you know, a claw, and that's, you know, and that's it. What sort of science fiction would you recommend then, or horror would you recommend?
Oh, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've got really strange tastes. So
well, that's all right.
I liked Inception and Interstellar.
Yeah, I think Interstellar's a lot better. But yeah, I liked Interstellar a lot.
I really liked the sarcastic robots.
Yeah.
They had a lot of character.
Yeah, exactly.
I liked the banter. It was just gold. I could just listen to that robot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant. And then people always talk about Chris Nolan not having a sense of humour. I'm always defending that. You know, he's made some mistakes. He's definitely got a sense of humour. He's got a very dry sense of humour, but that robot's a really good example of it. He dials down his sarcasm setting or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. It's really hard to say. I really like the TV show Westworld. I've really appreciated that. That for a reboot of the old movie is really interesting and unique. They've really nailed it. They've gotten enough where it's very similar to the old one, but at the same time introducing a lot of new stuff with new technology and new special effects. So it's really good. If you haven't watched it, you should check it out.
Yeah, I watched the first. I need to watch it because people keep telling me to carry on. I watched the first episode, which is usually what I do, and then I went, nah.
The first one wasn't the one that grabs me. It's always the third one in.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a fucking writing trick, though, man. It's like a crack dealer, you know? They give you 2 shit rocks, and then they give you a good one. Not that I've ever smoked crack, you understand. But it is. It's like, you know...
I get the metaphor.
Yeah, it's totally, you know, and it worked. I mean, you watch Breaking Bad like that, and you see the pattern of Breaking Bad. You know, you'll have like an amazing episode, and then you'll watch an episode where they're like in therapy, just talking to each other, you know, and they're like just dealing with the plot, you know, like.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the formula of TV now. It's just enough. It's a soap opera format. Yes, I saw the first episode and it didn't convince me that they were in a theme park, so I stopped watching. You know, I was like, this isn't a theme park. I don't understand. Where are the people? This isn't it was a bunch of like scientists talking in rooms, you know, and yeah, my mates were like, oh, you've got to see the rest of them because they're really good. And I was like, yeah, but I can't be bothered. You know what I mean? There's so many TV series. There's so many.
Yeah, it's true. It's really hard to catch up with everything that's out today. Is there any movie that you're looking forward to that's going to be coming out? Oh, it doesn't have to be science fiction. Anything.
Could you name me what films are coming out?
Alex Garland's Annihilation. Everyone's been talking about that.
Oh, okay. I saw that. I saw it a couple of weeks ago.
Did you like it?
No, not really. I thought it was quite dull. But you might like it. Like the last 20 minutes are pretty cool, and there was some very memorable things in it, and the themes in it are very good. But kind of much like Alien Covenant, the actual interaction between the characters is almost non-existent. Most of the time what you're doing is you're watching 5 women kind of walk around a wood for like an hour, you know. So it also, you know, owes a lot to Tarkovsky and Stalker in particular, but also Solaris. And once you've seen those films, it's very, very difficult to watch Annihilation and just not see that parts of it are borrowed, you know.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a Cloverfield paradox. I don't know if you've seen that. That borrowed a lot from a whole bunch of different sci-fis. And for some people it hit the mark and they really enjoyed it, but I couldn't help but see the other films that it stole from. So it was enjoyable for the first watch, but I wouldn't watch it again.
No. So, but, you know, these are kind of classics, you know, of Russian cinema. So, no one's seen them, really. And it's not even that he borrows the bits. It's more those films are deeper and more interesting films. So if you're going to just make a mainstream one, I'm like, I've seen too much. You could say that about the new Blade Runner as well. There's a kind of shorthand in science fiction that if everyone speaks slowly and there's no humour in the film, there is actually humour in the new Blade Runner. I don't think there's any humour in Annihilation, or at least I didn't see any. And so I'm like, oh God, you want to be taken seriously. You know what I mean? I'm like, look, if you actually want to portray people, then you have to have a few jokes. You know, you have to. You know, it has to feel real to me. Otherwise, I just think we're just being pretentious. And that's what I thought with Annihilation. I just thought it's not a bad film at all. I thought it was dull.
It's really different from what I've heard from other people.
Yeah.
They're all singing praises of it and they think it's amazing. But it didn't fare well in the test screenings. That's why they sold it to Netflix for millions. So.
Well, I think, I mean, the producer, they wanted to reshoot the ending or whatever, and you know, like, I think the producer's probably just angry that he's just like, where's my 40 million? You know, like, you know, he's seen Shape of Water or whatever was made for like 15 million, and he's like, oh, there's just a wood. There's just some people walking around in a wood, you know, like, there's not very much to it. I think the problem, for me anyway, the reason that it's got such good reviews is, and this is purely a personal opinion, you know, is that if you do science fiction and it's serious and somber and all that, it's very, very easy to not criticize it, if you know what I mean. You know, to be like, oh, that's serious science fiction and we don't get enough of this, so let's hush up, you know. We need more of this. Whereas actually we don't. There's lots of great science fiction movies, but they're all low budget and no one ever sees them. We don't need more super serious, like, you know, it seemed to be like it was modelling itself after Arrival, or which was a better film. You know, I thought Arrival I thought it was too long, but, you know, I thought it was a better film, you know, generally.
I thought the creature design in that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing stuff in that film. The problem with it is it felt like a short story to me, and I was like, I don't need to sit through 2.5 hours of this, you know. And that's kind of what Annihilation felt like. It all goes back to 2001, the tone of that. But the thing is about 2001 is there's a lot of stuff going on in it. I mean, there's just so much going on in it that you don't notice. Or it's just in the art direction. And they were really, really taking risks, and they were prepared to fail. But for some reason, that's become the blueprint for like a lot of modern science fiction. Like the tone of it has to feel like 2001, like it's important.
Yeah.
Well, I love 2001.
Too many films are just trying to be like that?
Yeah, just tonally. This is important. This is serious. Science fiction is serious and important. Give me something like Total Recall any day. You know, it's something that's full of ideas, and your RoboCop or Terminator 2, you know, like it's really entertaining. It's full of ideas, and you can think about it all you want.
Did you like Starship Troopers?
Yeah, I love Starship Troopers.
I love Starship Troopers. It's such a good film.
I watched it last week. I got the Blu-ray, the 4K of it, and I watched it. I fucking adore that. You know,
I really got to get the 4K version. I haven't seen all the extras and stuff like that behind the scenes. I've only ever seen the theatrical cut.
I don't think there's any extras on it. Yeah, I know. I just watched that. I'd watch that every week if I could. It's no, that to me is like almost the perfect film. Again, I think it's hilarious. The action's brilliant. You know, the gore's great. The satire, that's what kills me. You know, I can't believe a Hollywood studio released it. Honestly, I just don't understand how that happened.
Yeah, it's really funny because it's the intentional satire is this in the same style as RoboCop, right? It's just so outrageous, and it's supposed to be a commentary on, you know, using humans as a commodity to win, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting and deep and engaging stuff, but at the same time, it's a really entertaining watch. You can sit back and just not really have to think about it either. So you can kind of have the two options, which is great.
Well, I know, yeah, exactly. I know loads of people who are like, they just thought it was the cheeseburger. They didn't understand the satire in it until they watched it again. And that's, you know, it's very, very common for satire to be mistaken for the thing that it's mocking. It's like Starship Troopers kind of came out before 9/11. It feels like it was made just after 9/11. You know?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
You know, and that's how accurate it is. That's how they really investigated the politics of war. And Paul Verhoeven grew up in occupied Amsterdam, as far as I know. He literally had SS soldiers sort of pointing guns at him. He knows all about that, so you should listen to him. That's an example of someone who's socially conscious, using films. You know, he's actually talking about something, you know, as he was in RoboCop. You know, he's a very, very clever guy. I mean, brilliant guy. I saw his, have you seen his newest film? Elle, have you seen that?
No, I haven't yet. What is it about?
It's brilliant. It's almost a remake of Basic Instinct, but more, like Sharon Stone's perspective.
Oh,
you know?
okay.
So it's about a woman who was raped and then how she deals with that, you know, and it's fucking incredible. I mean, I love all of his films, but it's brilliant, and it's really of the time.
I saw the trailer to that. That looks interesting.
Yeah, it's really of the time, you know. It really feels like, oh yes, it's a current film, you know. It just deals with gender politics and, you know, empowerment and things. You know, it's just brilliant, you know. But Paul Verhoeven's always been brilliant. I'd love to see him, he was going to do Conan at one point. He was going to do, you know. He's going to make a film about Jesus, you know. That would have been amazing.
Wow. The last time I saw a Jesus film, I think it would have been The Passion of the Christ, and that was pretty full on.
Oh yeah, that's what launched torture porn, wasn't it?
Yeah, which is really weird.
Yeah, it was either that. It was like that. Was Henry portrayed as a serial killer, and then Reservoir Dogs, and then that. You know, like. yeah, it's fucking horrible. But I like Mel Gibson as well. I think he's pretty talented. Apocalypto, I love Apocalypto.
Apocalypto is an amazing film. Love that one.
Yeah. Again, you know, one of those films, it's kind of just moving along and entertaining, but underneath it's got this real fucking heartbeat. It's brilliant.
Is there anything memorable from working on the set of Alien Covenant?
I met Danny McBride once, which was, definitely the most memorable thing was the day that I was leaving. Danny McBride came to visit the Creature Shop, and I couldn't stop fucking laughing.
Was he just cracking jokes the whole time?
Not really, you know, but he was a fun guy. He was very nice, and he did crack a few jokes, and he seemed like a very regular guy, and he seemed very, very, very happy to be there, you know, which isn't always the case with Hollywood actors. And so that was an absolute pleasure, yeah. And I'm really generally not like a gushy, like, oh, I've got to meet this person sort of bloke, you know. But I was just like, please get Danny McBride down. Please, I need to meet Kenny Powers. Yeah, you know what I mean? I just needed to meet Kenny Powers. So, but that's just my love of East Fandom down, you know. Well, Vice Principals as well. I wasn't on set very often. I hate being on set, so.
Oh, yeah, it would be too busy. It'd probably be like, 20, 30 people crammed in a tiny area. Yeah. Well, no, exactly. It's just a pain in the arse. It's just lots of waiting around. But no, I tell you the most memorable day on set was, it's just a massive coincidence, but it was my birthday. I'd sculpted the chest burster, and that was being puppeteered. I was watching that on the monitor being puppeteered, and it was coming out of Billy Crudup's chest. Oh, wow. That's cool.
And then I found out it was also Billy Crudup's birthday. So it was my birthday, Billy Crudup's birthday, and the alien's birthday. Yeah, and so I was thinking, again, you're like, yeah, this is a pretty fucking good birthday present.
Yeah.
That was really nice. You know, that was really, I was like, I felt, that was really good. Yeah, apart from that, no, most of the time was spent indoors, like just slapping bits of clay onto an armature.
That was really awesome, having the same birthday as Billy Crudup and the alien. That's really cute. I had no idea.
Well, no. Yeah, neither did I. And so, I was like, oh my God. And someone was like, oh, it's Billy Crudup's birthday. And I kind of wanted to go up to go like, but oh, Billy, it's my birthday as well. And he'd be like, yeah, okay. Walk off. Which is usually how I think actors will respond when you go up to... I mean, they don't. They're actually usually really friendly. But, yeah, you don't want to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
No, fuck no. Yeah, actors must... certain actors must get that the entire time.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine what it's like being Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're just like, Jesus.
That's why I don't usually go up to actors when I've seen them out and about.
No.
I've seen, I think, Jeffrey Rush on my tram because he lives around Melbourne, and I've seen him a couple of times reading the newspaper. I just want to go up to him and get a selfie, but it's like, no, he just doesn't want to be bothered. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Just let him go home.
Totally. I mean, a friend of mine is amazing at going up to famous people and just talking to them, and I mean, occasionally they run, but generally, they have good chats, you know what I mean? And he gets, that's a gift, If I went up, I'd just be nervous, like a boob, and just be like, I really like you, it would just be embarrassing. No, I'm not really that sort of person. Weirdly, the only other person I did see was Paul Verhoeven. He's probably the only person I've ever in the street gone up to and gone like, mate, Starship Troopers, and it was just after Starship Troopers came out. And I was like,
really? That's really cool.
Yeah. I was like, thank you, I was just like, it was amazing. And he was like, oh, at least someone's watching it, because I don't think he was doing very well.
That's a pity.
He was cool, but there's very few people that I can't resist, And so far it's been Paul Verhoeven and to Danny McBride, I think. Those are my lovers. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dominic, for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you spending the time with me and answering my questions and just, flapping our gums about the movies we like and we don't like.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thanks very much.
And it's been really interesting just finding out a bit more about what it's like to work on a movie set. A lot of people who listen to this podcast, they love the movie or they didn't love the movie and they would like to know more about it. So it's been very nice of you to share stories with us.
Thanks very much, Clara. That was a pleasure.
This is Colony Ship Covenant, reporting. All crew members apart from Daniels in Tennessee tragically perished in a solar flare incident. All colonists in hypersleep remain intact and undisturbed, on course for Orgai 6. Hopefully this transmission will reach the network and be relayed 6 years.
You can now support Yutani podcasts on Patreon and subscribe to yutani.blog to stay up to date.